My name is Lydia Liebman, and I'm a senior at Emerson College, as well as a part-time student at Berkeley. I am the founder and CEO of my own PR firm here in Boston called Lydia Liebman Promotions, and I am also the general manager of WECB at Emerson, work for WERS, also at Emerson, also a jazz vocalist and a writer, and a lot of other, interesting things. Create a very multidimensional picture. I started Lydia Liebman Promotions when I was a freshman in college. I just felt that through my experiences over at Berkeley dealing with younger musicians that there was definitely this lack of opportunities of promotional opportunities for them. So these students would be having gigs and releasing albums, and they put like so much work and time and effort into it and money, and then they're not getting like necessarily results at their gigs. So I started as making flyers and posters and things like that, and then it kind of grew to be this thing that with being all-encompassing all areas of promotion. So it's grown from catering mostly to younger jazz musicians and younger students at Berkeley to professional, like Grammy Award-winning musicians as well. So everybody from Grammy Award-winning Danilo Perez to Joe Lovano, Dave Liebman, of course, and even Berklee College of Music as a whole. I've done a lot of work for them, so it's cool. It's a lot of fun. Working with Grammy-winning artists and Grammy nominees is interesting. I mean, with jazz, it's weird because you don't really develop a big head in jazz. Like there are very few musicians that kind of take on that. I'm a Grammy winner persona, so they're usually pretty easy to deal with. It's not too much different than dealing with somebody who, has not. But it's always, if you really look at it in perspective, it's pretty heavy, to be dealing with people that, have won Grammys and NEA, like National Endowment of the Art awards, and it's cool. It's definitely, yeah. I'm also a vocalist, and I grew up with dual training, so in classical and jazz. So I did a lot of theater productions, a lot of classical things. I did like a study on Bartok for for a year and things like that. But now I definitely have shifted more toward jazz, staying purely jazz, because the technique is very different, and the technique of a classical singer is extremely different from a jazz singer, and it was starting to really conflict, and I was like, I need to decide what I'm doing. So I released an album recently with my father on a Vector Disc label, and it was like an album of Antonio Carlos Jobim tunes, Brazilian composer, very very prominent, and we performed at Scullers Jazz Club a couple weeks ago. It went very well. So things are, it's cool. I love to sing. I have always loved it. It's something that's been part of my life, but I've definitely started to explore the business side of music a lot more, and that's really where I spend my time now. Working with my dad has always been great. I love working with him because he, I'm not like afraid, when I'm on stage if I'm with my dad, because like I know he's gonna have my back, so like that's nice. He'll make sure I know like certainly when to come in at the top of the tune. Like I'm not gonna lose my place because my dad is there. It's very, very helpful. I like to work with him a lot. We have recorded before. We've done a lot. I mean, he used to play piano for me at gigs. It's really funny, like he used to make jokes that he'll like stop playing saxophone. He'll just like, he'll be like a piano player, like plays on my gigs, because like that's what we used to do. We've performed at a couple jazz festivals together. I've sat in with his group at Birdland in New York, which is cool. And yeah, we've definitely worked together a lot throughout the years, which is nice. Growing up with musicians who are parents is, or parents who are musicians is tough because, it's not tough, sorry, let me recap this. It's definitely a different experience. When I was in high school, like all my friends, like their parents did something very different. Like my parents did something that was weird, and they all like, had like normal jobs. So it made difficulty growing up a little bit, just because it was just very different. And I grew up around adults. I'm an only child, so I would spend time, with other musicians, and I learned a lot, and I was exposed to things that a lot of people weren't, and I traveled a lot, and I'm very thankful that I was brought up like that. I mean, it certainly has shaped what I'm doing now and shaped me as a person, but it's crazy. I mean, you know, besides, like, you know, practicing, you're hearing, like, a saxophone playing at, like, you know, 9 o'clock when you're, like, trying to, like, go to bed, or, you know, like, you know, my dad will be, like, in, you know, Russia for, like, a tour, you know. It's like, it's like a little, it's different, but, you know, I've gotten used to it over the years, of course, but it's cool, it's nice.
88.9 WERS. What we just heard there was Robert Glasper. That was Somebody Else, and that's from his brand new Black Radio album, which is called Black Radio 2. It's the follow-up of his very successful Black Radio 1 album, which went on to win a bunch of Grammys and really brought Robert Glasper to the forefront of the R&B and hip-hop scene through jazz. So all my listeners know how much I love jazz, so I'm a big fan of Robert Glasper. So again, that was Somebody Else. Before that was another jazz-tinged tune from Rochelle Farrell with Don't Waste Your Time. I don't know if y'all heard that high note, but that was some crazy, crazy, crazy stuff for 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. Go her. My name is Miss Lydia. I'm your host.
The most memorable experience that I've had at ERS, you know, besides the daily grind of it, that's all I find to be like a lot of fun. You know, I love doing this. I love being on air. I love, you know, hosting interviews and doing all that. But I've interviewed some pretty interesting people. I interviewed this rapper from Roxbury named Malfi, who's like a well-known rapper, and he brought in like 15 people into the studio, and this is a small space, and it was like one of my first interviews ever, and it was so nerve-wracking. I mean, you know, imagine you've got like 15 people you've never seen before, you know, all in like matching hoodies, like looking at you, and like, and the girl that was doing the interview was having some trouble with the name, and it was just like one of the most stressful experiences I've ever had, but it was a learning experience, and I'm glad that I was there for that.
You're listening to 88.9 WERS, The Secret Spot.
You know, there's a couple of things in the works. I'm on the board of Jazz Boston here, actually, and here in Boston, obviously, and that's something that just happened. It's a new development, so that's cool. And that, you know, gives me some reason to kind of hang around Boston for a little bit. And of course, with my business doing what it's doing, I'm not going to just leave, you know, but I would like to be in New York, and I'd like to continue in this vein of working in jazz and music business and music marketing and that kind of thing. So, you know, we'll see what happens. There are certain companies I'd love to work for and people I would love to work with, so we'll see what it brings. But yeah, it's like a kind of a stressful time, but I'm looking forward to graduating because school is just, it's been a long time.